Hey guys, this is AIGaming1776 and I'm here to show you how Far Cry Primal plays on PC, and I'm also here to give a little bit of counterbalance to what Totalbiscuit and maybe some other people have been saying about how the game performs. Now I'm using version 1.1.0 of the game, and I'm using the Game Ready driver, which is 362.00. As you can see here, I have a 980 Ti. It's this thing scrolling back and forth here, and I'll go over here one more time, that 980 Ti, there you go. And Totalbiscuit is using a Titan X for his video. He's done a few different videos showing how the game performs. I don't doubt him in some regards because he's showing how the game performs, but I'm still having a different experience even using the exact same settings. So I feel like that needs to be shared, but I also think I know why I'm having a different experience. I don't want to talk about that. All right, so 980 Ti, display resolution 1920 by 1080p, refresh rate 144, window mode full screen, VSync off, graphics quality ultra, and then he made it very clear that he's using SMAA. So am I. Now you might be thinking, well, maybe there's SMAA times 2, or maybe there's filmic SMAA or something like that, but there's not. When it comes to anti-aliasing, you have off, FXAA, and SMAA, and those are your only options. Now I have to go back up here to turn this back to ultra, and you'll see SMAA will still be there. By the way, when I click it to ultra, there will be an indicator right there showing that it's going through. See, that little spear tip shows up and then it disappears. That is the game saving my new settings. I'll go completely out of here and then I'll go right back in and I'll show you we're on the up and up. 1920 by 1080p, full screen, no VSync, ultra quality. As we've said before, SMAA, you can see it right there. And yes, I'm using a camcorder. I'll explain why in the video. I think it's part of why I'm having a different experience than he is. All right, advanced settings. Field of view, he says he's at 100. So am I. All right, so let's start the benchmark. Okay, Totalbiscuit is using a Titan X. He's using one of those fancy multi-core processors. Was it a 5630K? Or I don't know. Watch his video. I'm using some much simpler stuff, okay? He has a $7,000 computer, as he goes on and on about in his videos talking about this game. I have a way cheaper computer. I am using a Dell XPS 8700. You heard that right. This is a Dell, baby. This is a pre-built Dell. I have an i7 4790 processor with a 3.6 gigahertz processor. You cannot overclock it. It is not a K model. Maybe you could delit it or something fancy. I don't know. Don't care. It's not overclocked. That's what's important. This is a pretty stock Dell computer. It came with 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it came with a cheap throwaway graphics card. Obviously, I put a 980 Ti in it. I'm using an EVGA GTX 980 Ti classified. Now, the speed that I'm running mine at, in case you think, oh, maybe he overclocked it. The speed that I'm running mine at, it's factory overclocked as a classified, and it operates in the mid 1300 range. It operates between 1340 and 1380. Whatever mood it's in, it kind of bounces around in there. Now, I could overclock it. I have had it into the 1400s. I think I've had it stable at 1420 for every benchmark and for every game. I've never had it up to 1500, I don't think. But this is factory overclocked. I haven't done anything extra to it, all right? And I'm using a dinky little processor in comparison to him. It's a non-overclocked 3.6 gigahertz 4790, all right? I'm using a mechanical hard drive. I'm using Windows 7. So my computer, by the way, it was $1,000 at Costco. I think it was $1,100 on Dell's website. Costco clearanced these out for $650 back in December. And I'm not going to say I wish I would have bought it then because Skylake was out at that point. But at $650, that was an awesome deal. And throughout 2015, it kept going on sale for $800. So at full price, I have a $1,000 computer plus a $650 graphics card plus a $120 PSU. I think my power supply is 120. It could be a little bit more. It's a gold EVGA. It's a G2 850 watt. This computer only has one slot for a graphics card. So 850 with a good 12 volt rail, and now I'm just going way too far into the weeds with this. Point is, this is more than enough of a power supply for anything I'm going to put in this computer, probably even a dual GPU card. So with all of that said, let's call it 150 for the power supply. and let's call it 700 for the graphics card because the classified is 700. I might have said a different price. I might have said 650, but the classified is 7. I don't edit my videos, guys. We're just going to keep going. $700 card, 150 power supply. That's 850. 1,000 for the computer. That's 1850, and that's paying retail for everything, right? That's not catching these things on sale. You can knock 350 off the price if I bought the computer clearance, so on and so on, yada yada yada. And you could probably build it. Someone's going to say they could build it for cheap. Cool, whatever. Point being, my hardware is lesser. So with all that rambling out of the way, his minimum FPS is 54, which mine is too. Now I've done this multiple times, and my minimum FPS has actually been 55 most of the time, 55, 56. It's 54 this time around. His average FPS is 70, mine is 78. That's more than a 10% difference, okay? We are using the same settings, and I got 10% higher. Maximum FPS, his is 80, mine is 95. I'm getting 15 frames per second higher than him. And my frames rendered are 3,915. His is 3,902. So I'm going to show you this for 1 second. I hope I don't get a copyright strike for this. I hope Totalbiscuit's cool enough that he's not going to do it. And I still say go watch his video, but those are his stats. His minimum is 54, his average is 70, his maximum is 80. His frames rendered are 3902 for this exact same test. Same settings, 100%. Now, I'm getting 10% better on my average. I'm getting 15 more frames per second, which is almost 20%. 16 higher frames would be 20% better for my maximum. Now, Totalbiscuit goes on and on in his video about how he uses shadow play, and shadow play only affected 2 or 3 frames per second for him. Maybe that's true on his system. I also think maybe the game has online DRM, maybe, because even though it's a single player game, when you start the game, it logs you into Ubisoft servers. It says logging into Ubisoft servers. So maybe online DRM. I've always felt that it makes performance inconsistent. And I'm only getting an extra 7 FPS for the frame rate, so that's not something to like brag about or hit him over the head with or anyone else over the head with, but it's still 10%. And anybody in the PC gaming world knows 10% it's not BS, it's not nothing. But let me show you this. Let's go to video. I have the flu, by the way, and I'm doing this at 1 in the morning. So I do have a frog in my throat. So his field of view is at 100. I believe the default field of view is 75. I think. I should have paid better attention to that. So you go in here, I've now got it at 75. All the other settings are the same. I'm doing this in one shot. I'm using a camcorder to show you there's no edits. This is all one shot. And also, again, he says shadow play doesn't affect his performance that much. Shadow play affects mine. And maybe it's because I have a weaker computer, right? He's got that multi-core, more powerful CPU. So maybe for Totalbiscuit, shadow play isn't as big of a hit for him. Okay, fair enough. The bottom line is I'm using a Dell pre-built computer that I bought from Costco, and I'm still beating him. Okay, so proof is in the pudding. I don't know what else to say on that. But shadow play does affect performance for me. It's not huge. He says it affects him by 2 or 3 frames per second, and he made a point in his video. He said, I'm going to go check. And he comes back and he's like, yeah, it's only a 2 or 3 FPS difference. For me, in real gameplay, shadow play is not normally been a big FPS difference, but it has made the games feel more sluggish at times. So I have steered away from it. I use a camcorder because if anything that's better than 1080p 60 FPS, I use a camcorder. Otherwise, I use an Elgato. So if I'm using a GTX 960 or R9 380, I can usually max a game out, run those through the Elgato. I have 2 computers in here. All right, actually I have 3, but I have 2 that I use for my channel at any given time simultaneously. I use a second computer that also has an i7 processor in it, and I use that with an Elgato to record my footage when I can. And when I'm using an R9 380 or GTX 960, I can do that, no big deal. Because those cards don't normally, when you max a game out, go above 60 FPS. They just don't. I mean, they're good cards, but they have limits. And even when I use a 970, I can more or less use the Elgato, but when I use my 980 Ti, I almost have to use a camcorder, because my 980 Ti is either going to play at 1440p, Elgato doesn't capture at 1440p, or my 980 Ti is going to play at 4K, Elgato doesn't capture at 4K, or if I play at 1080p, the frame rate is going to be so high, it's going to be so much higher than 60 FPS that I feel like I'm not doing the game justice. And yeah, I know I can use the Elgato and I can turn VSync off and I can show it and then there's screen tearing and this, that, or the other. But when I want to mean business and really show how a graphics card or a game performs, I use a camcorder. I feel like it makes a difference. The proof is in the pudding, guys. I'm using cheaper, weaker hardware than Totalbiscuit. I'm getting better results. All right, so his minimum FPS, this exact same test, the only thing we have changed at this point is I decreased the field of view. Now remember, I was already beating him by more than 10% for my average FPS. I was already beating him by almost 20% for my maximum FPS. I'm doing better now, guys. All right. His minimum FPS, 54. His average FPS, 70. His maximum FPS, 80. His frames rendered, 3,902. I beat him across the board. All right. Using a Dell pre-built computer with a mechanical hard drive, Windows 7 OS, and a 980 Ti that is factory overclocked. It's not even at its full potential. Okay, I have less VRAM. I have a lot of things than what that man's got in his system. So my minimum FPS is 60. His is 54. I am beating him by more than 10% on minimum FPS. My average FPS is 82. His is 70. I've got 12 more than him, and he's at 70. So I would need 14 more to beat him by 20% on average. I've got 12. I am 2 frames away from beating him by 20%. Okay? Now, he says field of view doesn't make a big difference. He says shadow play doesn't make a big difference. I'm showing you it makes a big enough difference. All right? We're talking 10 to 20% across the board just by lowering the field of view to the default and not using shadow play. I would like to see him set up a camcorder. I know he's got a webcam. He can turn his webcam around and he can try this without shadow play. Maybe he would beat me at that point, or match me at least. All right. I'm not here to talk shit about Totalbiscuit. I like Totalbiscuit, but in the PC gaming community, what happens is, let's be 100% honest here. Let's be real, people. Let's be all the way real about this. Not many people have a 980 Ti. Period. Not many people have a Titan X. Period. A lot of people don't even game with i7s. Period. A lot of people game on laptops. Okay. I don't have a gaming laptop to test on. He did a gaming laptop too, and he said it wasn't that good on a gaming laptop. I'll give him that. It probably wasn't. I'll go along with that. That's fine. But here's the thing. There's a ton of people watching these YouTube videos, but there's not a ton of people that have this hardware so they know for themselves. And there's not a ton of people buying a game like this when this is a $60 game that arguably offers less than the last 2 Far Cry games. And I mean last 2 retail games, because this is a retail game. This is not Blood Dragon. Don't compare it to Blood Dragon. This is a retail game through and through. And I've talked about that in another one of my videos. This is a real game, guys. I don't want to derail the purpose of this video, but this is a real game. This is not Blood Dragon. This is not $15 worth of DLC. This is a real full game, so I'm going to compare it to Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4. I'm not going to compare it to Blood Dragon. All right, so with that said, a lot of people have not bought this game. A lot of people do not have a 980 Ti. A lot of people do not have a Titan X. A lot of people do not have an i7. So they can't do this for themselves. So they have to take Totalbiscuit's word for it, or they have to take another YouTuber's word for it, or they have to take somebody's word for it, whether it's their friend or somebody from a forum. Do you see what I'm saying? So I feel like I owe it to the PC community that if I see something, I was in the military, and we would say, if you see something, say something. All right. Now, I'm not dogging him out. I think if TB would use his webcam instead of shadow play, and I think if he would change his field of view, he'd probably get the same performance as me or better. I think in his mind, he's thinking, oh, well, shadow play's not hitting it by that much. You know, I don't want to call him out. I've done it too. We've all done it when it comes to things. I think in his mind, he's thinking like, oh, well, this isn't affecting it too much, blah, blah, blah. But as you can see, I'm getting 10 to 20% better on the benchmark. But here's something super important, and I should have done this sooner so I can make the video shorter. If you guys have never watched my videos before, I'm very thorough. I am thorough to a fault. So I go out of my way to show people. I don't want you to take my word for it. If I say a game performs a certain way, I want to show you that it performs that way. I want you to know. Don't just listen to me. I'm somebody on the internet. You don't know if I'm telling the truth or not. So I want to show you. All right. And I come from the kind of background where you put up or you shut up. So, all right, I got a camcorder in my face, but we're going to play this. See how we're in the 80s for the frame rate? Now remember, I still have his stuff pulled up. His minimum FPS is 54, his average is 70, his maximum is 80 for the benchmark test. But here's the thing. As we play the actual game, you're going to notice my performance is way better than that. The benchmark, every game is a little bit different, but the benchmark for this game is more demanding than the actual game, although this is the opening area. And I'll give it that. Maybe later in the game, we're going to see things be more demanding than this. All right? To be completely fair, I'm only about 3 or 4% into the game. But as you can see, we're in the 70s, 80s, 90s for the most part. Maybe it's dipped into the 60s. I'm trying to actually play the game, so I'm not staring at the frame rate counter. When we go over here in this cave, it's going to be in the 90s and the 100s. All right? So when you see that he's got an average of 70, you know for there to be an average of 70 that there had to have been less than 70 at some point. And when he has, as I look at it again, a maximum of 80, if you don't have a 980 Ti, you don't have a Titan X, you don't have this game, all you can do is take someone's word for it off the internet. His benchmark demonstration is a little bit depressing. You know, you're probably sitting there with a GTX 960. Where's my wolf so I can feed him? You're probably sitting there. No, really, I'm trying to find him. Sorry if I'm giving you guys motion sickness. I'm trying to find my wolf so I can feed him. Here he is. I need to heal him. Okay, heal the beast. All right. So you're probably sitting there with a GTX 960 or 970, or maybe you even have an AMD card. I don't know. But you're probably sitting there. Maybe you have a 780. Maybe you have a 780 Ti. But whatever it is that you have, you're probably sitting there and you're saying, well, if Totalbiscuit on his $7,000 computer had a minimum of 54 FPS. Come here, Wolfie. He's really hard to feed in battle. It's hard to get the prompt to show up. Like you have to fidget to line up just right. All right. So if you see the average is 70, the max is 80, the minimum is 54, you might think to yourself, well, if that's how it plays for Totalbiscuit in 1080, then I'm not going to buy it because it's going to play like crap for me. Well, first of all, it's not going to be fair for me to promise you it's going to play great for you, so I won't. I will not promise you that it will play great for you. I have no idea. I've never played on your computer. And, you know, maybe there's something on your computer that would slow it down. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what the firmware is on your motherboard, the BIOS. I have no idea what your personal rig is like. I don't know what the quality of power supply you're using is. So, well, that's one of my teammates. I'm not going to promise that the game will play well for you. But here's what I am going to say. It does not play as badly for me as Totalbiscuit says it plays for him. And I think that's important. All right, so that's what I'm doing. You see something, you say something. I am showing this to the PC gaming community. All right, it may play very badly for you. You may watch my video and say, AI Gaming 1776. You said the game didn't play that badly for you. That gave me confidence. I went out and I bought the game, and it played horribly for me. Now I hate you for misleading me. So don't buy the game. Like if you don't know that if you're going to like the game, if you don't know if your computer can run it, and if you don't know if you would like it, and this game has a lot less in it than the last two games did. Okay, so if you don't know, if you're hesitant, if you're doubtful, don't buy this game. All right, don't. Wait till it's on sale. Wait until you've seen some more videos. Wait till you've watched it on Twitch. Do not buy this game based on my video. Okay, please don't. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to say, I'm not sure it's going to run so badly for everybody. I'm not so sure of that, because as you can see, hey, I don't want to die during this demonstration. As you can see, the game is not that terrible for me. It's just not. I'm getting 70s, 80s, 90s in real gameplay. And let me make this point real quick. In case you've never seen one of my videos before, let me make this point to you. Benchmarks are good. Benchmarks are important. Benchmarking utilities. See, the game's stuttering now and it just went into the 70s. Benchmarking utilities are very, very important when it comes to gauging graphics cards and when it comes to gauging game performance. And I believe in them. However, they do not paint the whole picture. And when I show you guys how games play, I never, ever rely on the benchmark. Ever. I show you how the game plays, and that's what we're doing right now. And as you can see, running around during the daylight, ultra preset, VSync off, normal field of view at 75, because I think it does make a difference. Maybe not the biggest difference in the world. I did one benchmark test and field of view only affected me by 2 frames per second. And 2 frames per second, I get it. That's not a lot. But I did it another benchmark test and it was more than that. By the way, this is really pretty in here. This is really a pretty area. Come here, buddy. You know, I don't want to deal with you. I don't have time for this. What I'm trying to do is run a little further through the game and see if we're going to get a different frame rate. Now, this is the opening area. I will make an update video if later on in the game the frame rate goes to hell, because it might. It might. But still, comparing apples to apples, benchmarking tool to benchmarking tool, you saw that I got better results than Totalbiscuit did. And again, I think it goes down to the fact that he used shadow play. I am using a camcorder. He had field of view at 100. My field of view is at 75. I think that's where a lot of the difference comes in. And because, all right, what do I need to do? I can't advance unless I play like detective mode. You actually have to do detective stuff. Oh, now saying I can run over here. Cool. All right, I'm not going to make you guys watch me do detective stuff. I'm literally just trying to run as far as I can to see if the frame rate gets affected. Anyway, benchmark to benchmark, apples to apples, I was still getting 10 to 20% better performance. And again, I think it's because of the 2 reasons why I said. Where do I go now? Do I go up or down? Can I get back up? It's going to be a better... I don't think I can. All right, we're going to go down. So that's part of it. Apples to apples, benchmark to benchmark. I still had better results than Totalbiscuit did. And I possibly had better results than other YouTubers you've seen have had. And again, it might be because I'm using a camcorder. And that's why I use one, guys. All right? I know a lot of people have hated on me in the comments for using a camcorder. And people are reluctant to give me the thumbs up for my videos when I do that. But I'm doing it for a reason, so I can be thorough. Look, I'm going to go in here and run around. I'll let him kill me. But I'm trying to see if I can agitate the frame rate. Here, let me turn on VSync even. Good old notorious VSync. VSync on. It's still the ultra preset, guys. It's still SMAA. Still the ultra preset. Still full screen. Now VSync is on. VSync normally in games will lower your frame rate a little bit. As you can see, we're still in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It doesn't always lower your frame rate, but sometimes it does. By the way, the monitor is a BenQ XL2430T, in case you're curious. I'm just running around. I'm getting hit. It's knocking the screen around. I got the enemies running around me. Still getting a decent frame rate. Like I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap the video up right now. Okay? I'm going to wrap the video up. We're going to end this. And this is what I'm going to say. If I find parts of the game later that play worse than this, then I'll let you know. I'll make a new video. I'll put a link to it. But I still beat Totalbiscuit when it came to the benchmark. And again, I think there's 2 for sure culprits and 1 maybe culprit. I'm not using shadow play. I'm using a camcorder. As I repeat myself, I know. They always say that repetition is good to help people retain the information. So I'm not using shadow play. I have the default field of view. And the other thing is maybe there's online DRM and maybe that randomizes the experience a little bit. And then maybe the kind of processor he has maybe isn't as good for gaming. I think I've seen Linus show that 4-core i7s can be better than the 6-core i7s. And I think that's what he has. He might have a 6-core i7. I'm not sure. But this video has gone long enough. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been AI Gaming 1776. The video is currently on AI Politics 2 for the YouTube channel, but I will be updating that. Check that in the description for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Just wanted to share that with the PC community, that I got weaker hardware, but I'm having a better experience. All right? And that's something to keep in mind when it comes to PC gaming, that don't just take someone's word for it just because they have a lot of followers or a lot of subscribers, because everybody's PC gaming experience can be different, and you're seeing it right now. So thanks for watching, guys. Have yourselves an excellent day. This has been AI Gaming 1776. I love the support. Thank you so much. Thanks for checking out my channel. Have a good one.